Hi. So there is a lot that I want to address with you guys, and I'll start by saying that the reason why I haven't addressed all of this sooner is not because I've been ignoring the situation like some people have said. It's because I've been looking into it. So, for those of you that may not know what I'm talking about, in the week since my interview was posted, there have been numerous and deeply disturbing allegations made against Zach Sellers, the individual that I interviewed. Now, these are potential crimes that we're talking about. And anytime a situation is as severe as that, my last priority is going to be to jump on TikTok and performatively make a video distancing myself, which seems to be what people wanted me to do. Instead, I have been spending the past week speaking to the victims, gathering as much information as I can to ensure that I have a full picture of what happened so I can speak as accurately as possible. So in this video, I'm going to try and address everything from the narratives that have been circulating online, as well as the many lies that James Charles said in his response video, and then in the end, everything to do with the allegations made against Zach Sellers. So I want to start by addressing the narrative that is honestly the most hurtful to me, which is that I did this interview for attention or financial gain or to monetize the horrific trauma experienced by Kayla. So I just want to be clear about the facts. I invested my own money from my own pocket in producing this interview, knowing full well it would be a financial loss to me, purely because I felt it was a story, and still very much feel it is a story, that the world deserved to know, in which one of the biggest influencers on the planet is a now self-admitted abuse enabler. Number 2. The small amount of money that was made from the interview, I believe it was about $1,500, was already donated to a domestic violence charity called No More. I learned about them during the Blake Lively case, and it was donated in Kayla's name, and that was my plan from the very beginning. In addition to that, the only reason this interview existed in the first place is because it was a story that Kayla wanted the world to know. And had it not been for her direct involvement, for her blessing and her encouragement, I never would have done the interview in the first place. And if at any point in time she changed her mind, I would have pulled the plug on the entire thing. And lastly, I just want to remind people that the first words out of my mouth in that interview was reminding the audience to pause and please watch Kayla's videos first and make sure that I was redirecting all of the attention back toward her and ensuring that the audience understood that everything we were about to speak to obviously came in second to her story. So I want to underscore the social significance of this story and why I ultimately reject the narrative that this is just TikTok drama. So in every case of abuse, there is the person that commits the abuse, and there's someone who enables it. Sometimes it's a friend who turns a blind eye. Sometimes it's a coworker who notices a bruise and doesn't say anything. And sometimes it's the biggest influencer on the planet named James Charles Dickinson, who by his own omission was explicitly told from his friend that she, quote, experienced the worst things a human being has ever experienced and that she was abused. And the word abuse was in fact used. His response to that, by his own admission, was to say, "Can I have him now?" And then proceed to develop a friendship with him and fly him to his home for 4 nights after, by multiple witness accounts, he was flirting with him, sexually attracted to him, pursuing him even when Kayla and Evan were still together. And now, after his reputation is what it is, being a liar and a self-admitted child predator, was arrogant enough to make a video screaming at the camera like a petulant child having a temper tantrum, as if it was completely absurd that people believed that there was sexual undertones of their friendship. So one of the many lies said by James Charles in his response video was his reasoning as to why he didn't speak sooner, which was he was so worried that a TikTok video he made could negatively impact the outcome for Kayla. Now, the reason why this is untrue is because there was no trial between Kayla Malik and Evan Johnson. There was a sentencing hearing between the Crown and Evan Johnson in which charges were pressed and in which he pled guilty to. So there was no jury, there was no ongoing trial, and the idea that anything James Charles said in a TikTok video was going to be used is completely untrue and was a clever way for him to deflect the real reason as to why he didn't address all of this, which is that he was caught red-handed. Now, there was a very obvious logical contradiction made in James's response video, which was the way he attempted to absolve himself was by minimizing the friendship he had with Kayla, by saying, I didn't really know her that well. But then the follow-up question to that would be, if you didn't know Kayla that well, then how well could you have possibly known Evan Johnson, someone who you only knew through Kayla? And the implication is you actually didn't know him at all. He was a stranger to you. Yet you still believed him over her, gave him advice, flew him to your home, lied to Kayla when she asked you if he's at your house, and one of the worst aspects, in my opinion, was you actually weaponized the information that Kayla confided in you with when she said, I experienced horrific things, and I'm putting together a 30-part Who the F Did I Marry series on the abuse I suffered. Screenshotted that and sent it to Evan as a way to exploit the vulnerability and anxiety he felt over Kayla coming forward with the horrific abuse that she suffered, and then offering yourself as a shoulder to cry on because we all know you want to get in his pants. James also lied in his video when he announced to 50 million people that he was actively pursuing legal action, yet never filed anything. I found this a little bizarre because it's been weeks now, and he could have easily already filed a bare-bones legal complaint that could have been amended or withdrawn later, but he didn't. And I believe the reason he didn't is that he never actually intended to, and instead was using it as a scare tactic so people stop speaking out against him. And I think James knows what a lawsuit entails, and if we look at what he is truly denying, and out of the entirety of all the allegations, the single solitary minute detail that he denies is that him and Evan Johnson ever ended up having sex. So if that is what the defamation suit is circulating around, the first thing that is going to be looked into during the discovery process is whether or not there were any sexual undertones between their interactions. And I think that is, number one, the very reason why he will not file a lawsuit, because he definitely has something to hide. If he didn't, he wouldn't be scared of the discovery process and having all of his messages entered into the public record through subpoenas. And number two, it's also the reason why in his response video, he didn't include any messages between him and Evan Johnson, which would have easily proven his innocence. Now, the allegations regarding Zach Sellers are completely disgusting. And I immediately confronted him the second that I saw Devin's video, to which he did not respond, and I've not heard from him since, which isn't really screaming innocent. I would be dishonest if I sat here and said that these allegations don't add a layer of complexity to this entire ordeal. I also can't tell you that I'm surprised that the individual who was always the best friend of Evan Johnson, someone who almost unalived Kayla, ended up having a shady past. What I can say I'm completely shocked by and have lost sleep over is the sheer stupidity that went into the decision to jump at the chance to sit down for an interview with me, in which the subject matter revolved around James Charles, someone who is historically and infamously condemned for messaging minors, in which Zach very well knew he had possibly engaged in the same behavior in his past. I don't understand the psychology that went into that. I don't understand that he likely presumably thought that this wouldn't come out. It is a complete mystery to me. If you are someone who is a victim of Zach Sellers, please email me your story and your information and your evidence, as I am personally compiling a document of all the allegations and bringing it to law enforcement, which is where these allegations belong. There was absolutely no way for me to have known that these allegations existed beforehand, and the purpose of the interview was not to platform him, but to extract information, which is exactly what I did. And I'm glad to say that his TikTok account has now been banned. And for those of you saying I am a grifter, despite the fact that I've never made $1 from my content, and that this type of content does not benefit my business in any way, I just want to say that I do this as a hobby. I enjoy investigating things, which is why I'm going to continue doing that, and I do not see it as my job to infantilize my audience. I trust their intelligence, and I trust their ability to view information and to extract their own logical conclusions from it.